Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm so excited to be starting this channel and kind of showing you some of my favorite products, some tips and tricks for makeup looks. So if you're interested in any makeup looks or my favorite products, just keep watching and we will get started with my first video showing you my go-to makeup look. So to start off today, I went ahead and primed with the Milk Makeup Hydrogrip Primer. I went ahead and already put that on my skin. You need to like wait a little bit for it to sink in before you blast right in with foundation. So I went ahead and did that a couple of seconds ago. So now that that's kind of like in the skin, I'm going to use my Dose of Colors Meet Your Hue foundation. This is in the shade 107 Fair. And I'm just gonna pump this on the back of my hand. And to start, I will go in with a brush and kind of buff that into the skin and then go in with my sponge and press that into the skin. This brush is the JH03 from Morphe Jaclyn Hill. So I'm just gonna start buffing this in. I like to start around the jaw area because that's where I have the most discoloration and where I need the most coverage, and then go in closer to the middle of the face. Also because you're going to be using concealer and all that kind of stuff in the middle of the face, I like to start on the outer perimeters. That way it doesn't get too cakey or too much in the center of your face. This foundation is also really beautiful, full coverage. This foundation I also find that I don't necessarily need to set, which I really like on days where I maybe want to look a little more dewy, and it's beautiful. I just used about a pump and a half, and that should be plenty to cover my whole face. Okay, now that that's on, and of course I know it's not perfectly blended or anything, I'm gonna go in with my Real Technique sponge and blend the rest of this foundation out. And I'll just take whatever's left on the back of my hand and just blend it in. So obviously if you're watching this video, you are aware that this is my first YouTube video. My channel is obviously brand new. This is something new I wanted to try out because I've been so interested in makeup for so long, and I feel like so many of my friends ask me for like suggestions and what my favorite products are, or ask me to do their makeup for them and things like that, that I just thought that maybe I would share these like tips and products and things like that with a wider audience, which kind of threw me forward to starting this YouTube channel. So hopefully my videos will be helpful to you and can kind of get you excited about makeup and about new products and maybe some new ways to do makeup. And I hope that like these videos are helpful. If you have any suggestions for me of things you want to see, I'm completely open to that. So please just let me know your thoughts and what you want to see, and I'll try to film as many videos as I can. Moving on to concealer, I'm going to use the Pure 4-in-1 Love Your Selfie. This is a foundation and concealer. This is in the shade LN2. I like to use a lighter concealer under the eyes and anywhere I want to highlight. Just helps create a nice dimension to the face. I am going to put a little, I normally don't put concealer on my forehead, but I have this like blemish on my eyebrow that I kind of want to conceal. So I'm just going to put a little bit right there on the forehead. I normally don't really put a lot of concealer on the forehead just because I do have a pretty wrinkly forehead. There's a lot of fine lines. Like I'm super expressive, as you can see. So I don't like to put too much concealer there. I find it just like settles into those lines and just emphasizes them more than I need it to. So I don't love to put a ton of concealer there. I mostly just focus on the under eye, the chin, and the nose. I also like to just take concealer that's left and just plop it on my eyelid to kind of prime my eyes for eyeshadow. Okay, now that that is blended in, I'm going to go into some powder. This is the Beauty Bakerie Flower Powder in the shade Oat Translucent. This does get a little messy if you don't close the cap. But it is an absolutely beautiful powder, helpful if you have big pores, especially in the like nose, under eye region. It just really helps to blur in that area. So I'm just pressing out any creasing and just patting this powder. Just gonna take it around the nose, on the eyelid. I like to make sure my eyelids have a little bit of translucent powder on them too. It just really helps the eyeshadow blend when you don't use like an actual eye primer. I just find that I have really creasy eyelids. So I'm just gonna go straight into bronzer, and today we're gonna use the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer, one of my favorite of all time. It smells like the beach. It's just amazing. And then I'm gonna take my Morphe G7 brush and then just dip that into the bronzer and build that up on the cheekbones. I like to place my bronzer a little bit higher, like kind of on my cheekbones. I just find if you put it too low, it starts to look kind of muddy. I also just take it under the nose and on the sides a little bit. And I'll just take it under the chin area and down the neck. Anywhere to create dimension on the face. So now that we have that, I will actually go back in with my sponge and just press on the edges just to make sure everything looks blended, especially because I didn't set my face necessarily in every spot. So I just want to make sure everything looks blended. I'm going to go into my Natasha Denona Diamond and Blush palette. This is a beautiful palette. It has cream products and powder products. I'm actually going to go into the cream blush a little bit, and I'm just going to use my Morphe M439 brush and just dip into that with my brush and just pat it on the apples of the cheeks. I've been liking doing my blush with a brush like this first and then blending it out with a sponge when I use a cream. I just find that it doesn't move the product underneath as much when I use a brush like this first, like a foundation brush. It just helps to keep everything in place. You could just use a powder blush instead of a cream. I just like the way that this cream blush looks. Really natural and brings some life to the skin. Now I'm just going to take this, whatever's left on the brush, just across the nose. I just think that looks really pretty. Now, once I've got that kind of where I like it, I will go back into my beauty sponge and just blend that out one more time. Now that my blush is nice and blended out, I'm going to go into highlight. Now today I'm going to go into a more natural highlight. This is the Essence Pure Nude highlighter. You can build it up to be super shiny, but I kind of like to use this almost as like an overall glow, sort of like a finishing powder in a way. So I'll just take this big brush. This is the Morphe Jaclyn Hill JH02 brush, and I'll just lightly dip it in and just put it on the cheeks and the forehead area. And it just gives like a really nice sheen. You can kind of see it just gives like a really nice overall glow to the skin. And then what I'll do is I'll take my highlighter brush. This is the Morphe M510 brush, and I'll go back in and just concentrate a little more product in the areas where I like a little more highlight. So you can see you can build it up. And this is like a couple of dollars from the drugstore. Gives you just like a really beautiful glow. Now for the last time, I'm gonna go back into my beauty sponge and just blend, make sure everything looks seamless. I'm gonna take my Catrice Illuminating Prime and Fine Dewy Glow Fixing Spray. I'm almost out of this. And just spritz the face. And let it dry. And then once it's almost completely dry, I'll just take my sponge and just ever so lightly press down, especially anywhere that I feel like is still kind of wet. So now that we have completed the complexion, I'm going to go into eyebrows and get ready for the eyes. So for my eyebrows today, I'm going to be using the Benefit Precisely My Brow Pencil in shade 3.5. And I'll just do one on camera and then I'll do the other one off of camera just so you can kind of see what I typically do with my brows. I would like to do a full brow tutorial type of video that just gives you some tips and tricks for different products to use with your brows and how to use those products. I'm just drawing hair-like strokes on the bottom after brushing my hairs upwards. And once I do that, we'll go to the front of the brow, do the same thing. Hair-like strokes. And then I will flip over to the spoolie and make sure I'm blending this out. Do you see a theme? All about blending. Now I'm just shaping the tail. And again, blending. And I also think, especially when doing your brows, I think this is important for your entire makeup routine, but especially when doing your brows, having an up close mirror and a mirror that's a little bit farther away is super helpful. So like I'm doing the details in my small mirror, but I also have a mirror far away so I can kind of get an idea of how the brow looks in relation to the rest of my face instead of just being so up close. And so once I think the shape is there, there's a huge difference between this brow and this brow. I'm gonna go ahead and complete the other brow off of camera and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back and the brows are finished. And so now we can start with the eye look. So today I'm gonna be using two different palettes. I'm gonna be using the Urban Decay Born to Run palette and the Tati Beauty Textured Neutrals palette. I love both of these palettes so much. The Tati palette has some amazing glitters and great neutral shades. And the Urban Decay Born to Run palette, kind of the same thing. It doesn't have glitters, but it has amazing neutral shades. I use this all the time, especially for this light weekender shade. I feel like I'm about to hit pan on it. I really dip into that a lot because it's the perfect transition shade for me. So that is where we're going to start today with the shade Weekender on a big fluffy brush. Let's see. This is the Morphe M504 brush and I'm going to dip into the shade Weekender. Tap off the extra. And just put this in the crease as my transition. I do have pretty hooded eyes, so when I say crease, I bring it up pretty high because if I don't, you're not gonna see it and it's not gonna have that nice like blown out look that you want. So I make sure to bring my transition shade pretty high for my eye shape. You don't necessarily have to do that if you don't have the same eye shape as I do. But for me, I have to bring it up pretty high. And again, this is just a transition shade, so you're not really gonna see much of it. It's just gonna be a nice light base to get your eyeshadow look going. From there, I'm gonna stop in the Urban Decay palette and pop over to the Tati Beauty Textured Neutrals palette, which is amazing. And in this palette with the same brush, the M504, I'm gonna tap into the shade Soothe in the matte row. This is also another shade that I've used so frequently. And I'm just putting that kind of over top where we had the transition shade, but bringing it onto the outer corner of my eye as well. And then just blending into the crease. This is all about blending, making sure all the shades marry really nicely together. This palette is super pigmented. A little goes a long way, and it's super buildable. So like this Soothe shade could be used as like a transition shade, or you can build it up to be pretty deep, which I really like about this palette is that you really can build up these shadows to the intensity that you want. So I'm just gonna build up that Soothe shade one more time just to make sure it's as deep as I like it. Now I'm not gonna be using the glitters today. Typically when I use the glitters, I like to do that first, do my eyes first, because the glitters do tend to fall on your face. That's true with any glitter shadows, not just these ones. So I just like to be kind of cautious when I use shades like that because I don't want it to get all over my face. So for this look, I'm not going to be using any glitters, but I'm sure that in the future I'll be using the glitter shades. I love this palette and use it all the time, and I love glitter, so I'm sure that I'll be using those at some point. So never fear, you will see videos with the glitters, but just not today. To deepen up this eye look a little bit more, I'm going to go into the Morphe Jaclyn Hill JH35 brush. It's like a flatter, a little bit smaller brush. And I'm going to go into the shade Ritual in the matte row, again, of the Tati palette. And just really pat this on the outer corner and the lash line. I don't want to take this too high, which is why I like using this flatter brush. It helps keep me honest and not bring the shadows up too high. It helps me keep them a little bit lower in the crease. And that helps create that nice gradient you can already see building on my eye. And then just taking it into the crease with whatever's left on the brush. I have not dipped in with any additional product. This is just to blend. I'm just going to dip in one more time just to build that up just a little bit more on the outer corner. And then I'm just going to do the same thing on the other eye. I prefer making more of a round shape on my eyes to kind of give me more of a doe-eyed look as opposed to like a super snatched wing. I feel like that exaggerates my almond shaped eyes a little bit too much. So that's something that you have to kind of play with yourself and find what's best for your eye shape. I'm just tapping back into Soothe with my big fluffy brush to just blend this out one more time. And that's what makeup's all about. Makeup's about experimenting, testing and trying and finding what works best for you. Just because some technique or product or something like that works well for me doesn't mean that that's going to react the same way on every single person. Everybody's different. Everybody's preferences are different. I'm dipping back into the JH35 brush into Soothe, and I'm just going to do the lower lash line. Everybody's preferences are different. Everybody's makeup taste is different. So I just want to come with that disclaimer that just because I do something one way doesn't mean that that's the end all be all. Makeup is art, so you have to kind of find what's best for you and the way that you like to do it. These are just helpful guidelines to get you started in the right direction, but you know your face, you know what you like to do, and just play around with it. You know, it washes right off. If you don't like it, you just wash it off. I'm just taking that Soothe shade and just blending it in the lower lash line. I'm going to take a smaller brush. This is the Morphe E36, and I'm dipping into the shade Ritual one more time. And I'm just going to get that really close on the lash line. This is the deep brown. Sorry, it's really hard to see me do this because I have to make a weird face. Then once I have that on the lower lash line, I'm going to go back into this brush, back into Soothe, and just blend that out. I like to make sure it connects with my top lid. That really helps make it look seamless and just like one cohesive eye look as opposed to like top lid, lash line. You gotta try to blend as much as you can. So that's the crease shades. I'm going to be using some of these sequin shades. So this is the sequin row. It's really hard to see. Oh, you can kind of see it on camera, but there is a little bit of like small glitter flecks into it. It's a really interesting formula because the base is matte, but there are glitter specks kind of like trickled into it, and it makes for a beautiful effect. It's gonna probably be hard to see on camera, but out in the sunlight and like with flash photography and things like that, it makes it look so beautiful and like dances across your eyelid. So what I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna go into the shade Aura. It's this like lighter whitish shade, and I'm gonna use the sequin shade. I'm just gonna use my finger. I find that that's the easiest way to use these shadows because you want to press. You don't want to be like dragging this everywhere, or the glitter flecks are going to come out of it. It's really delicate, so it does take some practice, but I'm just going to press that onto the lid. And I don't know if you can see that on camera. It's not blended out yet. There's a little bit of glitter in there and it's really beautiful. I'm gonna jump back into the brush that I was using, the JH35, and just ever so lightly just blend this. If you start blending it too much, all of the glitter is gonna fall out onto your face. But yeah, that's all I'm gonna do with that. Then I'm just gonna pop into the shade Soothe in this sequin row, and just connect Soothe and that Aura shade together, and then take this brush and just lightly again blend. I don't want to do too much blending. I just want there to be a nice gradient between the front and the outer corner. Yeah, so there's a nice sheen in there. I really don't know if you can tell on camera, but it's beautiful, I promise. So I'm gonna do the same thing on the other eye. Now I'm going to just highlight the brow bone in the inner corner. I'm gonna use this teeny tiny M170-4 brush. I think this is a lip brush. It's so small, but I find it's really good for inner corner and eyebrow, especially because I have kind of small eyes, so this is helpful. I'm gonna go into the Aura row. This will be the metallic shade. And I'm just gonna plop a little bit of that under the brow bone. And then I'm gonna take that same shade and highlight the inner corner. I would highly recommend this palette to anyone who's looking for like a nice neutral eyeshadow palette. This kind of has everything you could need. I mean, it has every neutral shade that you could need, and all of the different formulas are so beautiful, and I just get a lot of use out of it and I really like it. So I would highly recommend this. So now that I've kind of got everything where I want it, make sure I like the eye look, I'm going to plop into some Nude eyeliner. This is the LA Girl Ultimate Eye Intense Stay Auto Liner in the shade Super Bright. I like to use like nude shades like this on the waterline to help open up my eyes because, like I said, I do have kind of like small, not super open eyes. So this helps to make me look a little bit more awake. So I'm just gonna do that really quickly. You don't need to watch me do this. Okay, so I just went ahead and threw some brow gel in my brows. This is the Anastasia Clear Brow Gel. This stuff is like glue. This will keep your brows in place all day long. So if you have unruly brows, this is amazing. Another brow gel that I really like is the Glossier Boy Brow. Also really great. It's kind of like a pomade. For mascara today, I'm going to use the Thrive Causemetics Liquid Lash Extensions. This mascara is amazing. It's beautiful. However, when you take this mascara off, it's going to look like your eyelashes came out of your eyes. This is a tubing mascara. So what it does is kind of exactly what it sounds like. It wraps around your lashes to help them look longer. And that's why it's so beautiful, is that tubing technology that's in this mascara. But when you wipe your makeup off, it's a little alarming the first time because there's like chunks. But it's not a big deal. Obviously, it all comes off. This particular one is not waterproof, so it does come off fine and easy, but it is a little alarming when you look at your makeup wipe and there's just like chunks of mascara on it, but promise it's worth it. This mascara is beautiful. And I personally like to usually do a couple coats of mascara. I just do a light one first of this particular formula. Like already just one coat, this stuff is amazing. This particular formula, I feel like you have to be careful not to overdo it on the first layer, or else it does start to get kind of clumpy on the second layer. I did get a little bit on my eyelid, but I will get that off in a little bit. When you do get mascara on your eyelids, let it dry. Do not touch it until it's completely dry. Then take like a makeup brush or a Q-tip lightly and just like kind of scratch it off. That'll help so you don't have to like totally redo your eyeshadow, because that gets annoying. So from here, we're going to finish off with lips, and I'm just going to do something pretty like basic. I'm going to use the Morphe Backseat Love lip pencil. I need to sharpen her. She was dull. That's better. And I'm just gonna line and fill in my lips with this. I like to use this as just like overall lip color. And then once my lips are mostly filled in, I like to take my finger and just like blend it a little bit. So once I have that on, I'm going to just go over top of that with gloss. This is the ColourPop, I almost said ColourPlop. Okay, the ColourPop Ultra Glossy Lip in the shade Fairy Floss. This is just like a nude, neutral lip gloss. And that, guys, concludes this first makeup video on my channel. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell if you're interested in knowing every time I post a video. And then if you have any suggestions or thoughts about my channel, you can just pop it in the comments, or like I said, send me a DM. I'll leave my Instagram handle down below in the description box. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.